Good evening. Tonight on Union Daily, we will be talking about, you guessed it, unionization. First off, we're here with a factory worker to give us some insight on what factories are like in the year 1800. We understand that you come from a long line of gun makers. What is the most significant difference you've noticed between your experience and that of your father or grandfather?
Well, let me tell you, back in my papa's day, things were simple. He was just in his shop by himself, doing his work, passing on this trade just like our family's always been doing. Maybe not things weren't as productive that way, but the bonds forged from working together is so much more important than money. Nowadays, though, the factory workers don't even care about you. You spend all your hours toiling away in the dark for them. They stuff our pockets and leave nothing for ourselves. They don't even pay for decent lighting in there. I know a guy that's been near blind just from working in the factory all that time. They don't even care about us at all. If you fall asleep while working, they just drag you off the machine and make sure that you didn't break the machine. I tell you, it ain't nothing like my papa's time.
It's clear the industrialization of our cities has certainly affected many working class people and families. Here we are at America Factory, where you can find more children than in a schoolhouse. What's your name, little girl?
Sarah.
And how old are you?
I'm 9, miss.
How long you been working?
3 years, ever since my little brother was born.
What's it like for you in the factory? How do they treat you?
Well, it's quite terrible, miss. I've learned better now. But when I first started out, I'd very often get a licking for things like showing up late or falling asleep.
Are there a lot of children your age working with you?
Yes, miss. They said they like us little ones because we have smaller wheels for the machines.
See, folks, those times were excruciating to be anyone besides a rich man. However, things got a little brighter with our country's 7th president, Andrew Jackson. Old Hickory was known to advocate for the common man. Many states were influenced to lower their voting restrictions and allow white men of the lower class to vote during his reign, which meant that those most afflicted with the brutal working conditions could choose representatives to look out for them. However, when legislatures were still too slow to address their needs, workers turned to non-compliance. Now we're going to go to the home of Sarah Bagley, the previous Lowell Female Labor Reform Association leader. Follow me. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, reported. Here, would you like a cup of tea?
Sure, thank you.
Would you like to see?
Yes, of course. So, Sarah, what inspired you to join this group?
I grew up working in a textile mill with 12 to 14-hour work days. It was exhausting. The conditions were horrible and the machines were dangerous. I was so very done with the mill's treatment of myself and my fellow ladies. So I decided to form this association to fight for better working conditions and a 10-hour workday.
So, what did you do as leader of this association? And were you successful?
I led campaigns and petitions to advocate for our goal. We went on strike and had even marched to several other mills, but ultimately they had managed to overpower us. Although they were not very successful, we had managed to inspire other movements with similar goals. We had managed to motivate other women that they did not have to put up with these injustices in the workplace.
Before 1835, only 24 strikes had been reported, but it has now become a much more frequent occurrence, as seen by this one right here. What are you trying to accomplish by refusing to work?
We want the workday to be only 10 hours.
Yeah! And we want better wages for our time.
Yeah! And we should be able to smoke on the job.
Yeah, sure, I guess.
One.
Get back to work. Take this and go.
And here's a factory owner. How do all these strikes make you feel?
These people, they don't know what's good for them. If they're so concerned with these life conditions they all talk about, they should all quit here all their boondoggling and work harder to produce more so we can get more money. So I can get more money. But if they did a better job, maybe I would end up paying them more.
Really?
No, get back to work. Those products are gonna make themselves, so get back to the machines.
Most strikes were unsuccessful. There were 300,000 trade unionists in 1830, but unions were still illegal and people on strike could face legal troubles for their actions. And even though the common people revered President Jackson, he was largely responsible for the Panic of 1837 that dampened the progress in unionization because the increasing numbers of unemployed people could not be in unions. However, one major landmark was the Massachusetts Supreme Court case, Commonwealth v. Hunt. Previously, closed shops where only union members were hired were subject to prosecution as criminal conspiracies. but Chief Justice Lamel Shaw ruled that peaceful labor unions were not illegal. Moving forward, we expect more unions and much better working conditions for the future of America.
Have you ever felt that your spinning loom was too slow and ineffective? Well, introducing the Smith & Company Power Loom. This power loom can spin twice the amount of fabric in half the amount of time. Made with American oak and steel, it requires fewer hands and less money wasted on workers in a factory. Upgrade your factory or workshop with this device and get rid of those pesky laborers.
I'm a textile fashion owner, and I can say for sure that this device has made my life so much easier. I don't need so many annoying workers, and if they protest, I can afford to kick them out. I would recommend this to anyone, anywhere, anytime.
I'm a textile factory worker, and I can say that this machine has made it easier for me to produce fabric. My boss has been happy with the results lately. Hopefully our wages rise in the future.
Welcome back after our short intermission. So far, we've talked about the rising tension in the matter of unionization. There have been countless strikes with women and children, some of the most affected workers protesting for their rights. Whatever progress had been made was shot down during the Panic of 1837, but now we'll elaborate on some key developments and take a trip in our time machine to how unionization is later on. We briefly mentioned the case of Commonwealth v. Hunt earlier. Now we're going to talk about this case in further detail. To give some background, this court case ruled that labor unions were not illegal, allowing for the rights to strike and organize. We're going to dive deep into the case with our first guest of interest, Jeremiah Horn. Hi Jeremiah, how are you?
I'm good.
Let's start. Could you give us some details about your case?
I was part of Boston Journeyman Bootmaker Society. Our society tried to increase wages for our workers after Andrew Jackson's inflation. But once I decided to work on a pair of boots and didn't ask for no extra pay, next thing I know, I'm being fined by the society for breaking their rules. And obviously, I wasn't going to pay none of that. Eventually, I got fired. The society didn't allow any labor that wasn't part of no union. People started going crazy about this, thinking that society was some sort of criminal conspiracy theory. In another case, a bunch of members were indicted for being a part of a conspiracy, but this Commonwealth v. Hunt case was an appeal to that.
Thank you for this insight. Now, let's hear from Chief Justice Lemuel Shaw, who presided over the case and ruled in favor of Horn and the Unionists.
Unions and their actions are not unlawful because they exercise powers that are used for useful and honorable purposes, not any dangerous ones. Unions simply allow workers to say their opinions on their working conditions and allow them to have human rights in their work. These unions use legal means to achieve their legal ends. They have the right to strike.
Now regarding this case, we have a factory owner from the esteemed Thompson Boot Factory. How does this case's verdict make you feel?
This case, Commonwealth v. Hunt, clearly none of these stupid judges were even thinking correctly. Now that these unions and strikes have become legal, U.S. factory owners are in a boatload of trouble. Now I won't be able to control my workers and they'll be able to legally rebel against me. I do give them proper wages and good working conditions. They just complain way too much about the littlest things. Yes, you'll have to work overtime some days, and yes, the factory's conditions aren't the cleanest, but that's life. If it's nothing they need to start banding against me over. How are us factory workers supposed to keep safe knowing that we have all these scumbags grouping together, scheming to take down our business? These criminal unions will be the death of the industrial world.
Thank you for that insight. And did you know about the harsh working conditions in your own factory? There have been many workers from your own factory who've been complaining about this and formed local unions.
Well, when I was young, I had to do plenty of hard work myself. It's important to have toughness in this weak, pathetic society. If these weak little workers complain about the littlest problems, our society will crumble. This court case is really going to damage our manufacturing industry and harm the U.S. society.
We just time traveled to the year 1860, where we're going to see a men's union meeting happen in action. Let's check it out.
So what do you guys think of the work hours lately? I think we've been going overtime way too much these past 2 months.
We are working way too many hours, but we're making way too little money for the hours we're working. And every time I complain to the stupid factory owner, he just shoves me off to the side and says, deal with it.
Yeah, we should
How
be
about
working
you deal
10
with
hours, not 14, 10 hours.
it? Even less than that.
Yeah, too many hours.
So, do you guys think about the conditions in the factory? Because I cannot breathe in there. The smog just fills up my face. It's like, I just like go home and I'm coughing all day long, all night long. I'm coughing 24/7. Like my lungs are gonna explode. I can't even smoke anymore.
I don't care. I'm smoking half the time.
You're gonna die at 20.
You're gonna take your cigarettes away soon, I think.
No! You can't take my cigarettes!
Oh, well, that was an enlightening session to say the least. Well, there you have it, folks. In the future, I'm sure unionization will persist amongst workers in all different kinds of industries. As long as there's issues in the workforce, unions will be there to protect the intents of the workers. And that was Union Daily. We'll see you next week for our next topic.